Hi, my name is Dr. Kelly Paquette, and I am a psychologist and a yoga instructor, and welcome to your trauma-sensitive yoga class. So for today's class, you can actually do this sequence from a chair if you'd like. If you're going to be using a chair, it can be helpful to have a chair without arms. And then there's a couple of supports that could be helpful for today's class, and that would be 2 yoga blocks. And if you don't have yoga blocks, then you can use 2 filled water bottles or even a sturdy book or 2. Any of those will be just fine. If you're not sure if you need a yoga block, then I would still encourage you to take a moment and actually go get a couple of those supports, because you might find them helpful along the way. And then we also will be using 1 yoga blanket. And if you don't have a yoga blanket, totally fine. I'm just using a bath towel today, so you can use a towel, a yoga blanket, or any sort of small blanket is just fine. So feel free to take a moment to go get those. And we'll begin by finding a comfortable enough seated position. So that might be on the chair, on the ground. And we'll start with transitioning from the external world and all the sort of internal chatter a little bit more into the body. So we can do that by beginning to create some movements in our seat. And as we do that, really noticing how sensation is also shifting. So you might notice these sort of pressure points underneath your thighs or glutes kind of shifting in the chair or the ground as you move. Do you notice any kind of initial sensations of maybe stretch or stiffness? And then you're welcome to add on any arm movements. So if you'd like to move your arms up or roll out the wrists, I encourage you to give yourself permission to arrive whenever you arrive. So that might mean you're feeling that sensation right away, or it might not be till the end of class that you feel more in your body. It's just fine. So feel free to continue to move as long as you need. And then we'll come to a more still seated form. It can be helpful to close the eyes if you feel okay to do so. And let's bring a gentle lift to the torso. So we begin to sit naturally tall. Perhaps noticing the crown of our head, the very top of our head, extending a little bit further towards the sky. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. What's the quality of your breath in this moment? Could you invite it to be a little bit more free and easy? We'll relax the muscles in the neck by letting the chin drop towards the sternum. And we'll roll that left ear over towards the left shoulder, opening up the right side of the neck. And if there's any pain, bring your head up and use your hand just to give like a gentle massage. You're welcome to move your head a little forward and backwards. Do you notice any shift in sensation as you move your neck? So you might notice, like when your head is back, that you feel a little bit more of a stretch along the front side on the right side of the neck. And then maybe when you shift your head forward a little bit, you might notice it a little more on the back of the right side of the neck. Are you breathing? We can let that chin roll back to center, and we'll let the right ear roll over towards the right shoulder, opening up the left side. If there's any pain, please bring your head up and just use one of your hands to give a bit of a massage. You're welcome to move that neck forward and backwards. Just getting really curious about all the subtle sensations along the left side of the neck, maybe even a little bit of the upper back or shoulder, or even left ear. And then we can let that chin roll back to center. Inhaling our head up, we'll move into the shoulders. So we'll start to create some shoulder rolls here. How big these are up to you. So you can make them quite large and pronounced, or you can make them very small and subtle. Any sense of those joints moving? Are you feeling any sensations across the chest or the upper back? Feel free to reverse direction a few times, or do one and then the other. When you're ready, you can bring those shoulders back to neutral, and we'll move into the spine. So let's take our left hand, kind of plant it down beside us on the left side. Now, if you're in the chair, you're just going to be grabbing the left part of the chair for support. And our first choice is going to be how much of a bend you would like to create as you lean towards the left. And if you notice that your right hip or glute leaves the ground, go ahead and bring that back, even if it means coming out of the bend so that you can have stability. If you would like to add on an optional arm, reaching the right arm towards the left side, your gaze can go down, can stay neutral, can look up, whatever feels okay on your neck. You might roll out the right wrist a little bit here. You can watch sensation perhaps all the way from your right lower back and hip, moving up the side of the torso, maybe even into the ribs, especially if we breathe into that right lung a little bit here. I notice it even in my right armpit, so you might see what you notice. Any sensation in the arm and hand as we've kept it up. And we can inhale ourselves back up, and that right hand will just float on down. You might notice a little bit of sensation, perhaps a little tingling in that right hand. And then we're going to plant that right hand down on the ground. Again, if you're in the chair, you're just going to grab onto the right side of the chair. And we'll start to create that lean towards the right side. And you might even notice that one side feels a little different from the other. Or maybe they feel exactly the same. Just see what you notice. Optional to add on that left hand reaching towards the right. You can roll out the wrist if that feels good. You can gaze wherever feels most comfortable on your neck. And let's breathe into that left lung. You might feel those little muscles in between the ribs stretching and opening. Where do you notice sensation along the left side of the body. And then we can slowly inhale ourselves back up, and that left hand floats on down. You might notice any sensation in the hands. And then setting up for a gentle seated twist. So we'll take that left hand and we'll just put it a little bit behind us on the left side. If you were in the chair, then you're just going to grab towards the back of the left side of the chair. Right? And that right hand can go wherever it's comfortable. And we'll inhale to grow naturally tall, lengthening through the spine. And exhale as a gentle twist towards the left. Your gaze can go wherever is okay for your neck. We can relax the shoulders away from the ears. Maybe softening the jaw. You can even close your eyes at times just to reflect more inward. And if you were to scan from the very top of your head to the tailbone, is there any sensation of a twist happening in your back? And when you're ready, you can slowly release back to center. Maybe move it around a little bit just to re-neutralize the spine. And we'll take that right hand and we'll put it a little bit behind us on the right side. If you're in the chair, you're going to be grabbing towards the back of the right side of the chair. Right? Left hand can go wherever is comfortable. And we inhale to sit naturally tall, lengthening. Exhaling, gentle twist towards the right. Nothing aggressive here, so check in with your sensation. You're never stuck. You can always back off, modify, adjust. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Maybe feeling the belly move with the breath. And when you're ready, slowly releasing back to center. And again, just making any movements you need to kind of neutralize the spine as we set up for cat-cow. So if you would like to stay seated, whether you want to be seated on the mat or whether you want to be seated on the chair, for cow, we'll rock forward in our seat, placing more of the weight in the front part of our legs. And we'll open up across the front body, lifting the chin here. Taking a breath here in cow. And then for cat, we rock back onto the tailbone and we C-curve the spine with our gaze down. Staying for a breath. And then we move with our breath. So inhaling, we rock forward, lifting the gaze. Exhaling sends us back on the tailbone, gaze is down. So you could stay with those movements if you're seated. If you would like to come down onto the mat, we'll begin to set up for cat-cow. And this is a nice opportunity to, if you've got a towel or a blanket, to actually use it as cushion for the knees. So you can put your knees generally underneath your hips and your hands generally underneath your shoulders. If this doesn't feel good on the wrist, you can always make a fist here as well. Okay. And for cow, we let the belly drop and we lift the chin and gaze. And for cat, we round the spine like a rainbow, gaze is down. So let's move with our breath. Inhale into cow. Exhaling, rounding the spine, gaze is down. Inhaling, lifting the gaze. Exhaling, rounding the spine. Moving with your own breath here. You can always experiment with speeding it up with the breath or really slowing it down. See if you can find your natural rhythm today. And then feel free to add on any sort of organic movements that just feel good. So you can try kind of shifting the hips a little side to side if you like. And if you're in the chair, you're just moving in any way that feels good. Right? If you're on the mat, you can try shifting backwards and forwards. Any sort of movement here for 3, for 2, and for 1. We'll come back to a neutral position. And for my folks on the mat, I'm going to give you an optional downward dog. So for myself, I'm going to move the chair a little bit out of my way here. And for downward dog, if you'd like to take that, then what you can do is you can just walk your hands a bit forward, and then you can tuck your toes and send your hips up and back. And from downward dog, you can just kind of pedal out the feet if you'd like. You can bend both knees, sending your belly towards your thighs. You can always bring your knees down. We're only going to be here for 2 more breaths. 1 more breath. All right, let's bring those knees down if you've been doing the downward dog. And if you're in the chair, you're going to begin to hinge forward in a forward fold, hinging to any degree that feels okay for you. If you're on the mat, then we'll begin to walk ourselves to our feet, keeping our upper body hanging forward here. Options for the forward fold. We can kind of give a generous bend in the knees and use our forearms on our thighs. We can let our hands just sort of dangle. Doesn't matter if it touches the ground or not. We can also grab opposite elbows. And either way, you might enjoy swaying or maybe a little bounce. Careful not to lock out the knees, right? Creating at least a little bend, maybe more. And let's shake our head yes. Shake our head no. Maybe open and close the mouth to release the jaw. And then we're going to release our hands if you've been holding on to opposite elbows. And we're going to slowly roll up, vertebrae stacking on top of vertebrae. Head and neck come up very last. Wonderful. So if you're feeling any dizziness as you're standing up, that's a nice cue from the body that you might need a little bit of water. So feel free at any point to take a little sip. Okay. If you've had your towel, you don't quite need that at the moment, but don't put it too far away. And let's come into mountain. So let's all take a look at our feet as we start to wake up sensation in the soles of our feet. So you can tap them out on the ground, perhaps. You can kind of massage the toes or roll out the ankles. If you do one, maybe do the other. Rooting down through the soles of our feet is always a really nice way to actually ground ourselves in moments that we might get overwhelmed. So let's begin by actively pressing our feet into the earth. And as we're rooting down the base of our mountain, what do you notice light up in the legs? Do you feel any muscle engagement? Anything happening in the glutes? And then lengthening from the waist up, we create a gentle lift in the torso and placing our attention to the top of our head, extending a little bit further towards the sky. We can drop those shoulders down away from the ears. The hands might be spread facing forward. If you feel okay to close the eyes, now might be a nice time to do that. Perhaps adding a little breath in this strong mountain form. If you've had your eyes closed, you can open them now. And let's just sync a little bit of arm movement to breath. We can inhale our arms up towards the sky and exhale, hands come down, palm center. Now, if this didn't feel good on the shoulders, you can also open up to the sides. You don't have to lift, right? So check in with the sensation of those shoulders. We're going to do that 3 times. Okay. Inhaling, we reach or expand. Exhale, we draw back center. Inhale, we reach or expand. Exhale, hands draw center. Last time with your own breath. Beautiful. So now we're going to do a little flow. It's called a sun salute. And the important thing to know about flows is just not to take them too seriously. So if you're not going at the same pace or you're not quite sure, that's absolutely okay. So I'm going to first show you how to do a sun salute from a seated position in the chair. So you would have your back against the chair. I'm just going to show you from the side here. And if you're standing, you're going to be doing the same thing just from a standing position. Okay, so we empty the breath. We inhale, we reach the arms up. Exhale, palms come center, forward fold all the way down. Inhaling halfway up here. Exhale, we fold all the way. Inhale, we reach all the way back up. Exhale, hands heart center. Okay, so we're going to do that for 3 more times. Let's empty the breath. Inhaling, we reach. Exhale, we fold all the way. Inhaling halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhaling all the way back up towards the sky. Exhale, hands heart center. Let's take a breath here. And then we'll empty the breath. Inhaling, we reach. Exhale, we fold. Inhaling halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhaling all the way back up. And exhale, hands heart center. One more time. When you're ready, inhale, we reach. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, all the way back up. Exhale, hands, heart center. So let's just pause for a moment, maybe check inwards on any sensation around the heartbeat or sense of warmth anywhere. Okay. So let's go ahead and get our blocks into a position that they'll be ready for us. So we just really kind of want our blocks or our block substitutes in front of us. So it really just depends what way you're going to be facing. I'm going to be facing towards the right, so I'm just going to have them generally in front of me there. Okay. So we're going to do something called chair form. So if you're seated in the chair, then you're already in the right form. What you'll be doing is beginning to hinge yourself forward to any degree, bringing your hands heart center. Right? If you're standing, then we might bring our feet kind of underneath our hips, give us a little bit of stability. We can bring our hands heart center, and we can sit back into an imaginary chair. Now it's up to you how deep of a sit you want, so checking in with your body. And if you're feeling a lot of rounding in the lower back, maybe try kind of tucking the tailbone a little bit, keeping some length in the lower back. And do you notice any sensation in those thighs? Any indication those muscles are working? So let's breathe here for 3, for 2, and for 1. Let's fold forward. Really releasing the legs here. It might feel good to kind of give a generous bend in the knees, just letting your belly kind of rest on your thighs. You're never stuck. You can always move. So if you want to sway or move in any way. Now, optional twist. This is where I'm going to use my blocks. So I'm going to come up halfway and I'm going to press my hands on top of my blocks. And then I'm going to give a bend in that left leg, and I might straighten out the right leg a little bit. And I'm going to leave my left hand down, and I'm going to open up with the right. You might like twisting. You might like rolling out your wrist here. Your gaze can go wherever is natural. And then we can bring that right arm down. And now we'll leave the right hand on the blocks. We'll give a bend in that right leg, straightening out the left a little bit more. And then we'll open up with the left arm. Maybe rolling out that left wrist. Choosing your gaze based on how your neck feels. Are you still breathing freely, easily? Then we can bring that left arm down. Let's bend the knees and roll up slowly here. Head and neck last. So we're going to come into a warrior 1 today. So for warrior 1, I'm going to first set up my folks in the chair. All right. So we'll start on the left side. So if you're in the chair, you have a couple of options. You can keep that left leg bent, and you can send back the right leg, and you're just using the corner of the chair for support. And your hips are generally towards in line with that left leg, right? If you're standing, then we're going to take that left foot and we're going to point it out towards the left, and we're going to step back with that right foot. And with that right foot, we want to kind of angle it like a 45-degree-ish way forward. It doesn't need to be exact. What that does is it takes our hips and shifts them towards that left leg. Right? And you kind of bend and straighten that left leg. Just get a sense of your legs underneath you. If this is feeling uncomfortable, then you might want to think about being on like railroad tracks and not a tightrope, right? So you might want to create a little space in between the legs. You can experiment with that. And then we're going to fly this warrior. So flying warrior is large, sweeping arm movements here. There is no right or wrong, so this is an excellent time not to look at the screen, because it does not matter what anyone else is doing. You're moving in these sweeping motions, watching sensation, being very curious about how this feels in the body. Is your breath flowing freely as well? Now you are welcome to continue to fly your warrior. If you would like to join me in a traditional warrior one, you're welcome to do that now. Traditional warrior one, we create more of a still bend in that left leg. And just take a look at that left knee. Is it tracking over the left foot? If it's dumping inward or falling outward, that's not great for the knee joint. So let's bring it over that left foot. And then we'll stack our shoulders over our hips for stability. And we'll reach our arms towards the sky. You're always welcome to keep them at heart center. We'll drop the shoulders away from the ears. The gaze is over the horizon. We breathe for 3, for 2, and for 1. Let's slowly come out, and we're just going to shake it off. And then we're going to come into star. So we will spread those legs and we'll have the feet kind of pointing towards the top corners of the mat. If you're in the chair, you're also just coming to the edge of your chair and bringing those feet out. Right? Now, star is about taking up space. So you can reach those arms or expand them wide. You can move the hips. You can roll out the wrist. And what is it like to take up this kind of space, right? To move against smallness. Okay, we'll bring those hands heart center as we sit down into horse. So it's like we're sitting into a wide-legged squat here. So if you're in the chair, you're just bringing the knees, your calves in, bending at the knees, right? And we might sort of like move a little side to side, maybe a little bounce. Maybe seeing if there's any sensation in those thighs. Remember, you're never stuck. If it's too much, you modify, you adjust, you give your legs a break. Right? And then let's inhale back up into star, and we're just going to flow with our breath a little bit. So exhale, we'll come into horse. Inhaling into star. Exhaling into horse. Inhaling into star, but this time we bring those hands to our hips. We point the toes forward in like a wide 11. We give our knees a little bit of a bend, and we're just gonna fold forward into a wide-legged forward fold. Options, you can always keep those forearms on your thighs, or you can just let your upper body dangle. It doesn't matter if your hands touch the ground or not. You might shift your hips a little side to side. And if you are, as you shift the hips, do you notice any sensations in those sort of upper inner thighs as you move the hips? And we can shake our head yes and shake it no. And then we'll bend those knees, roll up slowly, vertebrae on top of vertebrae, head and neck last. If you feel any dizziness, go ahead and take a drink. And we're going to get set up for Warrior One on the other side. So I'm going to first show you from a chair. For Warrior One, you can just bring that right knee is bent. You elongate the left leg, and we just have our hips kind of lined up over that right thigh and knee, right? You've just got the corner of chair for support. If you're standing on the mat, then we'll have that right foot pointed towards the right. We'll step back with that left foot, and the left foot will be angled a little bit forward, 45-degree-ish bend, but don't worry about that too much. And we'll just kind of bend and straighten that right leg. Get a sense of what this side feels like. Do you notice any differences from this side and the other? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We're just being curious about any sensation. And then we're gonna fly this Warrior One. So large, sweeping movements here. No need to look at the screen. This is free movement. You're watching sensation and then just using that as feedback of how you might enjoy moving the body. Perhaps noticing the breath here. Is it also moving freely? And what is it like today to just give your body permission to move in any way that feels good? Now you are welcome to continue to fly your warrior. If you would like to join me in a traditional Warrior One, I'll cue that now. You can bend that right knee and take a look at that right foot. Is the right knee stacked on top of it, in line with it? If the right knee is dumping inward or falling out, go ahead and line it up in the same direction of the foot, protects the knee joint. And we can look over that horizon on the right side. We can stack our shoulders over hips, and we can reach our arms up towards the sky or hands at prayer center. We can drop the shoulders away from the ears, perhaps turning on the breath a little bit more here for 3, for 2, and for 1. Let's go ahead and release and just shake it out. Maybe grab a little sip of water. And we're gonna do a stabilization form called tree. What's really important about stabilization forms is that our intention is to cultivate stability. It's not about ego. So please check in with yourself and your body and make sure you're listening to your body. So we'll begin to kind of put more of our weight into that left leg, and we'll kind of root down the left foot, kind of like we did in mountain. So pressing down. If you're in the chair, you're doing the same thing. You're actually pressing that left foot into the ground. And then the first option is to come up onto the right toes here, right? You can bring your hands heart center, and you can work on cultivating stability right here. It helps with stability to gaze at something that's not moving, hugging the lower belly in, and then breathing. Now, if you want more, that right knee comes out to the right, the bottom of the right foot comes to the inside of the left ankle. And if you want more, then that right foot slides up to the inside of the left calf. We just want to take care not to press on that left knee. So you find your variation. Practice finding a spot that's not moving to gaze at and to breathe. If you want to grow your branches, you can by lifting your arms up or out, totally optional. And we're breathing for 3, breathing for 2, and 1. Let's slowly, safely come out, shake it off again. And just checking in with yourself and how much you push yourself. Do you need to make a different decision on the other side? You always can. Okay, let's root down into that right leg, right? Putting a little more of our weight into the right leg, pressing through the right foot. I like to turn on the right glute to provide more stability, so you can try that out. And we can come up to the left toes here, bringing our hands heart center, and breathing and cultivating stability right here. If you want more, then that left knee comes out to the left, and the bottom of the left foot comes to the inside of the right ankle. And if you want more, then that left foot slides up to the inside of the right calf, not touching the knee. Gazing at something that's not moving, hugging that lower belly in, breathing. If you'd like to grow your branches, you can. For 3, for 2, and for 1. All right, let's slowly, safely come out, shake it out one last time. Now, we're going to be transitioning to the mat. So if you've been in the chair, you're welcome to come down to the mat, knowing we won't be getting up and down. If this is on something mobile, you can also take this to the bed and do the remaining of our class from the bed as well. Either's just fine. So I'm just going to move my chair a little bit out of the way here, and we'll come down to the mat. And we're going to need a few different supports, most likely, as we set up for something called butterfly. So the first support I suggest is actually taking whatever sort of towel or blanket you've got and just folding it to whatever degree and sitting up on that. And what that does is it just gives us more space to kind of move in the hips so that we don't round the lower back so much. And then you're going to bring your feet together, and the knees are just going to kind of open up like a book. Next modification, if this feels like a lot of sensation, then you can also grab your blocks, bottles, books, whatever you've got, and you can actually put them underneath for extra support, right? Okay. So for some of us, we might like to kind of put our hands back, leaning back a little bit. This might feel good. Others might prefer to sit up straight. And still others might prefer to lean forward a bit. And if you're leaning forward, you might think of like your heart center kind of moving up and forward as opposed to kind of dumping forward. Just puts a lot of pressure on our back. So now we're going to be here for a few moments, so feel free to try out all three options, right? And just remember, you're never stuck, right? So you can always come out, modify. Sometimes it feels good to close the eyes here. Often there's a lot of sensation in the hips. So perhaps sending our breath to this area where you feel sensation, maybe on the inside of the thighs. And what's the quality of your breath in this moment? Could you relax your jaw a little bit? And let's take 3 more breaths. One more breath. Okay. Let's go ahead and if you've had supports, you can remove those now. You might want to lean back and come off of whatever seat you've got if you've been using one. Don't put the towel too far away. We're about to do something with it. And maybe just kind of windshield wipering your knees a little bit back and forth just to release those hips a little bit. And then we'll place the knees up towards the sky, our feet about hip-width distance apart. And actually, before we do that, let's set up our towel. So let's actually take our towel or a blanket and just kind of roll it up. So there's nothing fancy about this. You're just sort of rolling it up. And we'll just put it next to us so that we can access it in just a moment. Once you do that, then we can take our hands and maybe put them kind of between our thighs and our calves. And just notice that space in between the belly and the thighs. And perhaps creating a little more space between the belly and the thighs. And just see where the lower belly kind of catches you, right? Just feel as like a natural stopping point. And you can hug the lower belly in a little bit, but we keep breathing. Option to lift one foot off the ground. Bringing it down, you could lift the other foot. If you want to be real wild, you could lift both feet. Okay, and then let's go ahead and roll down onto the mat here. And we can widen our feet about hip-width distance apart, just letting our knees sort of come together here. We can put one hand on our belly and one hand on our heart. Let's just take a moment to pause and reflect inward on any sensation you might be feeling. Do you notice any sense of a heartbeat underneath the hand on your chest? It's okay if you don't. We're just looking, we're just getting curious. Do you feel your belly rising and falling with the breath under the other hand? Could your face soften a little bit more here? if you had your eyes closed, go ahead and open them now. We're going to bring our feet back to about hip-width distance. And we're just going to reach for our sort of rolled up towel or blanket. And we're going to actually press into our feet to lift the hips off the ground. And we're going to take that rolled up blanket and we're going to put it like in between the tailbone and the lower back. So it's more like the sacral area. As you're doing this, if you feel any pain, just remove it. Just remove it. You can do everything else with this. So feel free to make any adjustments you need here. And then when you're ready, we're going to extend one foot up towards the ceiling here. And then the other foot up towards the ceiling so that both feet are over our body. And you can flex the feet. You can roll out the ankles. Your legs don't need to be straight, so feel free to let them be bent. And let's open up our arms like wings, if you've got the space to do so, so that we have more stability behind the upper body. You might notice that support between you and the bed or ground, across the biceps, shoulders, upper back, back of the head. And with the ground underneath you, see if you can just really relax a little bit here. Is there any physical sensation that suggests that your feet are over your body? Sometimes people begin to notice a loss of sensation in the feet. Totally natural, but you're never stuck. You can always bring the feet down. You can always make a different decision. Let's take 2 more breaths here. 1 more breath. Now, as we begin to bring the feet down, notice sensation in the feet. See if you feel anything. So we can bring one foot to the ground, and then bringing the other foot to the ground. What do you feel? What do you notice? A lot of times people feel a little bit of tingling as the blood flow comes back in. So let's go ahead and lift our hips to remove that rolled up blanket or towel if you were using that. We don't really need it, so you can just kind of put it out of your way. And we'll draw those knees in towards our belly and our chest. We can wrap our arms and hands around the knees, or you can place your hands in between the thighs and the calves. And you can just kind of rock a little side to side. You might notice how when you rock a little to the left, you feel a little bit more pressure along the left side of the spine. And then when you rock to the right, you might feel a little bit of pressure along the right side of the spine. And then if you take your knees in a circle, you might notice that the pressure shifts around the lower back, kind of like a little lower back massage. See if there's a way to make this feel good. And then when you're ready, we'll let those knees fall over towards the left, coming into a twist on our back. Now, if that right shoulder peeled up off the ground, go ahead and grab one of those supports, whatever you've got, and you can just place it between your left thigh and the ground. That way both shoulders can be connected to the bed or ground. You can do whatever you like with the arms. You can make them wings. You can rest them on your belly. Whatever feels comfortable here. And this is where we really begin to wind down the nervous system. So starting to soften through the body, just let gravity do more of the work here. Maybe letting your legs feel a little heavier. Perhaps releasing the jaw. You might see if there's any sense of a stretch along the right side of the torso. And if your mind ever really starts to wander during these more still yoga forms, you can always come back to the sensation of breathing. So you might even try that now. Where do you notice the sensation of breathing the most? Is it in the nose, in the belly and chest? We might even hug those knees back in a little bit, another little bit of rock before we set up on the other side. And then we can let those knees fall over towards the right side. Now, if that left shoulder peeled up off the ground, go ahead and grab whatever support block blanket that you've got. And again, you can put that in between the right thigh and the ground. And that way, both shoulders can have a sense of stability against the bed or the floor. Again, your arms can open up like wings. They can rest on the belly, whatever you'd like to do. If you feel safe enough to close the eyes, now's a good time to do that. As we continue to give our nervous system permission to wind down. So we can let the legs feel a bit heavier, just let gravity do more of the work. We can soften our face again. Perhaps you might notice a bit of stretch somewhere along the left side. Can you also feel yourself breathing here? Then we'll bring those knees back up to center. We can reshift the hips to neutralize the spine. One last rock of bringing those knees in. And then as we set up for final relaxation form, I want to encourage you to get whatever you need to be as comfortable as possible. So if you need to get some socks, you need a blanket, a sip of water, whatever you need to do so that you can have a minute of rest. So feel free to do that now. For those who have a chair, I'm also going to give you an option. If you have a chair, you can actually kind of scoot closer to the chair and you can bring your calves on top of the chair, laying back down. This is a really nice little release for the lower back, totally optional. If you don't have a chair, you can just extend one leg long and then extend the other leg long. And just letting the tops of your feet just sort of flop out to the sides. You can bring your arms alongside you. If you have the palms on the ground, that's a gesture of grounding. If you flip your palms up, that's a gesture of receiving. And then you can also rest the palms on your belly, whatever you'd like. And And let's relax the muscles in the forehead, letting the forehead be soft and smooth. We can soften the muscles behind the eyes. We can relax the jaw so that there's a little bit of space between the top row teeth and the bottom row. And that relaxation can spread down the neck into the shoulders so that the shoulders might feel a little bit heavier. Our chest muscles and upper belly soften so that our breath has lots of room to move. And the lower belly and in between the hip bones is soft and warm. You can relax the thighs, the knees, the calves, so that your legs might feel a little bit heavier. Just letting the ground support you, so that even your toes and fingers are soft. And scanning head to toe, is there any place that you could soften just a little bit more? And I invite you to take this next minute or so just as rest for you. To claim it as a moment of rest for you without anything else of an obligation or expectation. Remember, you're never stuck. You can always move at any time you need. And I will call you out when it's time. You can begin to deepen your breath a little bit. Maybe wiggle the toes or roll out the wrist. If you've had your legs on a chair, you might want to bring those legs down onto the floor. If you'd like, you can reach your arms overhead for like a good morning stretch. And then you can roll over to your favorite side, maybe hugging the knees in a little bit and using our arms like a pillow. Just resisting any urge to rush. And then we can use our arm strength, just kind of press ourselves up into any seated form. Maybe bringing hands heart center. Cultivating just a couple of moments of positivity from our practice today. And the light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you.